Hello, everybody, and welcome to this conversation with Restore Hope Liberia. I have with me Saundra Williams, who is the Executive Director of Restore Hope Liberia, and she is joining us from upstate New York. Hi, Saundra.
Hi, Veena. Thanks for having me.
A reminder to members that both Saundra and I are doing the best we can to record this conversation on our home internet. And if the internet fluctuates, then you might see some frozen frames and some difficulty with hearing our conversation. I trust you will bear with us, and let's get started. So, Saundra, I believe you have a presentation to share with us.
Yes, I wanted to show some photos of Cooperative as I talk more about the context and RHL programming and the specific project that you're supporting. So here we are in West Africa. We're right on the Atlantic Ocean here in Liberia. And Cooperative, where we work, is on the Sierra Leonean border. It's a good day's drive from Monrovia, the capital, and that's on a good day during the dry season. The rainy season is from May to October, so a good 6 months out of the year. And most of the roads from Monrovia to Cooperative are not paved, so it's virtually inaccessible half the year. We're talking about a very remote corner of the world. And Liberia is a place where 1 in 10 children die before their 5th birthday. 30% of teenage girls are pregnant, and about 2/3 of the country is illiterate. It's one of the poorest countries in Africa. It was actually really started, the nation of Liberia was started from freed slaves in the US coming over to Liberia, and they started the Republic of Liberia. So we have quite a connection with this country, even though it's all the way in West Africa. And Liberians really have experienced multiple episodes of trauma, from life in poverty and widespread gender-based violence, the Civil War years, and the Ebola epidemic. And the Civil War years were from 1989 to 2003, so very recent history. And they were horrifically brutal and characterized by child soldiers. There was rampant drug use and addiction, really instituted by fighting forces on all sides to really create better fighters. There was mass displacement. Schools were closed, really a generation lost for education. And it ended in 2003, and it left a country where 2 out of 5 children would die before their 5th birthday. 1 out of 5 women died giving birth. It was horrifically traumatizing. And really, just about a decade later, the worst Ebola outbreak in the history of the world swept through West Africa. And the index case of Ebola came through Cooperative Hospital in 2014. And I think we can appreciate how terrifying that episode was, given COVID-19 and our fear around this pandemic, as compared to Ebola virus, which is highly infectious, but with a case fatality rate of around 50%. It likely left as many orphans during that period as did the Civil War years. And so it was during this time that myself and my co-founders, Dr. Barbara Burke, Dr. Bob Brufsfold, and Dr. David Okiro, came together to form RHL. And we wanted to bring our collective experience. We've worked in over 14 different countries during humanitarian emergencies with 4 of the largest aid organizations. We wanted to bring that back to Cooperative, as they had worked in Cooperative in the past, and we wanted to intervene in this critical gap between the emergency period, where there's a lot of aid, there's a lot of support, and longer term development, which really requires a more stable and secure context. So we created RHL to address the 3 main causes of poverty in an effort to provide recovery and an escape out of the cycle of poverty. So we run programs in education, in healthcare, and economic opportunity. We really see our model as a 3-legged stool. You need education, you need health, you need economic opportunity in order for the stool to stand, in order for individuals and communities to escape poverty. And we work at different levels. So we provide support to individuals, to households, and to the community at large to ensure that there's systemic change, that we're addressing the deficiencies in the system. So we work with local government, we work with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. And program integration is really a key element of our work as well. And I think the origin story of the Women's Weaving Cooperative is a great example. In 2017, women were coming together for their adult literacy classes, and they were talking amongst themselves about how to earn more income. And a few of them said we're skilled weavers, because weaving is a traditional craft in West Africa. And so they developed this apprenticeship model and the cooperative. And even today, they come together for their adult literacy classes before the start of their weaving. So we try and integrate programs where we can. And that's a key element of what the project that you're supporting has, because we're integrating this evidence-based mental health component into existing women's platform. So group therapy, which is a model adopted by the World Health Organization. And there was a randomized control trial done in Uganda showing significant decrease in women's depression scores. We're using that model and we're integrating it into the Women's Weaving Cooperative, Kolahun Crescendo, which is a photo storytelling group with the women, and also into the broader community as well to give access to other women as well. And we're doing that because we believe that it will maximize the impact of the intervention, so that we're not only addressing the depression and PTSD in the community, but also working to increase women's social and economic empowerment measures. So you're supporting business skills training, microfinance, savings and loans training as well. So we're tremendously excited about the potential impact that this project has to benefit a large number of women in a really meaningful way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Saundra, for that. Now, the Dining for Women family is well aware that often it is women's leadership at the community level, at the state level, at the national level, that they bring such wonderful qualities of resilience and the desire to change their communities that helps everybody to lift all the boats up. I am sure Liberia has so many stories of resilience from women leaders. Can you give us a few examples?
Yes, on the national scale, the civil wars were really ended by women coming together across the country and protesting and stopping the wars. They were critical to ending these 14 years of civil war. We then had Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who came in and led the country out of war, and she was a woman president of Liberia, former woman president. And even in Kolahun, we see that women can take leadership roles if given the opportunity and given the support. And I'm thinking of one woman who is part of the Women's Weaving Cooperative now, and she has such a harrowing story. Like most Liberians during the war, she fled her home. She lived in the bush. And during those years, she had children. And the day she delivered triplets, she was found by the rebels and raped and taken. She managed to escape, but fled back into the bush and lived there all those years until RHL found her, brought her back into the community, provided some support, including psychosocial support. And today, as she says, she can go amongst her friends. She's now an instructor for the Women's Weaving Cooperative. And I think it's such a testament to two things, really. One, the power of belonging and the power of a group, which this project addresses. And also how just a little support can go a long way in empowering these women to take back their leadership roles and to become the new leaders of Liberia.
Absolutely. That is such a touching story of resilience. I'm glad that you have her in your midst. Can you give us a few more examples of how this collective trauma needs to be dealt with, but in a holistic way, so that you're dealing with all of the little issues that have built up over the years?
Right. So yes, as you said, it's really a accumulation of traumas, because gender-based violence is widespread. It's estimated that the majority of women in Liberia have experienced sexual assault. The Civil War years, most of these child soldiers, these young girls, are now adults, mothers of themselves. And then the Ebola epidemic. So it really is addressing multiple trauma upon trauma. And so we were looking for a few things. We were looking for a model that was effective, that was evidence-based, which we had found in this group therapy model. We were looking for something that was scalable, because we know that the need is not just in this one community, but it's across the district, it's across the county. Really, there is an epidemic of mental illness in Liberia due to these traumas. So we believe that this intervention will be really a saving grace for these women, because it addresses their needs. It's low cost and scalable, and it's something that they can own, because we're training women within the community to become facilitators and trainers so that they can go out and start their own groups and have the skills necessary to continue this beyond us.
Absolutely. I just wanted to remind you and our members that we have another project coming up in November, I believe, Resolve Network, that is dealing with former female combatants and how to integrate them back into the communities in the DRC. Maybe one day the two of you can talk about some of the best practices. But how important it is to build that very solid base of economic empowerment, so that the family can be, relieved of one source of stress. Can you tell us anything a little bit more about some of the psychosocial trauma and the group therapy?
So this was before COVID. We had planned to bring in a trainer to train women who were interested. So women will self-select within the community. They don't necessarily have to be involved with RHL at this point. They'll have an opportunity to become trainers themselves, and they will then recruit interested parties, interested women who want to participate. The model is an 8-week session, so their depression scores are assessed at the beginning and at the end. But what's interesting about our project is that while we will assess their scores at the end of the 8 weeks, the women will have the opportunity to continue doing group therapy, so that we expect to see the decrease not only initially, but in the long term, because they'll be part of a group that lasts and that has some sustainability built into this.
Absolutely. At this point, we are running out of time. We could talk forever about this. I do hope our members will take this opportunity to learn more about this part of West Africa. It has been a long time since we funded a project in Liberia. The last time was 2012. So we are looking forward to learning more about this part of the African continent, this country of Liberia with really strong women. And your project in particular, we have funded other projects that have been about mental health, and almost all of them follow this tried and true method of group therapy, and something that is fits in well with the cultural context. Any last thoughts, Saundra, before we say goodbye?
I'm just so grateful for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you all how the project unfolds. Thank you for having me, Veena.
Absolutely. We wish you the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.